North Carolina has landed their first commitment in the class of 2025. Hubert Davis loves shooters. Boy, did he just get one.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday afternoon, September 27th, 2024. Welcome into this live reaction edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Carolina content every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listen or watch. And I want to give a special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our brand new Locked On Tar Heels insiders who I had already shared, by the way, the Dixon news with in advance, had shared our scholarship chart with in advance, updated with the Dixon news. So if you'd like to get in on that, make sure you come join the Locked On Tar Heels insiders. The link for that is in our show notes. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, gang, here's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about Derek Dixon, Carolina's first commit in the class of 2025. We'll talk about his game, who he is. We will look at our scholarship chart. I'm going to pull that up here in just a little bit. We will look ahead at what's next, what Carolina's potentially got coming, and factor all that in. And then, always love in these moments to get to take questions and observations from you guys as well, and love to have those moments to interact. So if you want to take an opportunity to drop in your thoughts on Derek Dixon or the commitment or anything like that, make sure to share that. So let's dive right into this thing. Derek Dixon, let me tell you a little bit about him in case you're not familiar yet. First off, you need to know that today is Derek Dixon's birthday. I always love when these guys commit on their birthdays. It's just a neat thing. And so you love to see that. He is a 6'3", 190-pound combo guard out of the Washington, D.C. area. You love that DMV, man, and always good to get a guy out of that area. We've had some very talented players. Ty Lawson obviously first comes to mind with me on that. And so great to have Derek Dixon in the mix with the Tar Heels as the next out of that area. He attends Gonzaga College up there in D.C. No, that is not Gonzaga Mark Few and the Bulldogs, but that is his high school. Dixon chooses Carolina over Pittsburgh, over Vandy, over Virginia. Take that, ACC competitors. Take that, Capel family. I'm just so over all that skirmish. Anyway, at 247, Dixon is ranked 51st in the class of 2025. He is the 9th ranked combo guard in the class. I had asked our good buddy, Coach Pat Kilby, if he wanted to come join me and discuss Dixon. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to. He was picking up his boys from school, and that's all well and good. But he did share with me a couple thoughts on Dixon, so I wanted to pass those on to you before I give you some of my thoughts about Dixon. Number one, Pack said, I love that he's a really good two-guard fit in Hubert Davis's system. And what I like about that is, look, rankings are fine and they're great and whatever. But what you have to always look for is fit. Is this somebody that fits us from a talent standpoint, first and foremost? Because if that's not in place, nothing else matters. Clearly, Hubert Davis and the coaching staff believe that he is. Does he fit us culturally? Is he somebody that is a Carolina guy that carries himself well, both on and off the court? Does he surround himself with wise people? Does his coaching staff and his teammates speak highly of him? All of that clearly has come together, and Coach Davis has landed Dixon. So Pack says that he believes he is a really good fit in terms of a two guard in the Carolina system. And yes, he's listed as combo guard. We'll get to some thoughts about, is he more of a shooting guard or a point guard? We'll talk about that in a minute. And then Pack goes on to say, I think Derek is a great shooter, but mostly when his feet are set and he's got a slightly too slow release. Pack would like to see Dixon really continue to work on just having that shot pocket ready, boom, getting the ball out of his hands as quick as he can get it. And then Pack goes on to say off of that, but he plays really well off of 2 feet. And here's a critical key thing, especially in this day and age of the transfer portal. Pack says, if, and that's a massive if he'll wait it out for 2 years, he'll be really, really good in his junior and senior year at Chapel Hill. And that's all well said by Pack. That if is so critical because obviously we know in this day and age, so many young men and young women, because of the ability to get out and run, if I'm not getting that PT right out of the gate, if I'm not being utilized as I thought I would be, or whatever it is, then I'm out the door and gone to my new school, my next school. One of the nice things about our coaching staff, and I know other coaching staffs are like this as well, but not all are, is that Hubert Davis will not and will never promise the playing time. He will never say, come here and you're going to be a starter. I mean, unless it's guaranteed. But my guess is the pitch to Derek Dixon all along has been, you need to come here and be up next in our lineage of backcourt studs. Look at what we have in the backcourt next year. That could be you. However, you do need to be aware that you are probably not going to be starting right out of the gate. That's just not where Dixon is right now. Could he continue to rise in the rankings? Absolutely, surely, but not right now. And Hubert Davis and staff are going to be honest and straightforward with him about that. And so I love Pac's point there about if he'll wait it out. If he will have some playing time, but man, he could be an absolute dude come his junior and senior year. Think about the progression that like RJ Davis has had. And then now he's the ACC player of the year, the reigning ACC player of the year, with a great opportunity to maybe do it again in year 5. I'm not saying that Dixon is going to do that, but man, in a day and age when guys aren't willing or capable or able to stick it out, if you will, there's so much development that can happen, and you got a great opportunity. So I love that from Pac. As for my own thoughts, I project, as Pac has said, Derek Dixon to be a multi-year player at Carolina. He, again, at least right now, does not project as a one and done type player, maybe even 2 and through. I see him being 3 or 4 years in the system. But what I truly believe is that he can come in and he can grow and flourish. I really, in a lot of ways, wish he was a freshman this year so he could learn from RJ, who could tell him like, look, it takes a while, but man, you see my career and how it's progressed. That could be you, buddy. You could have that exact same kind of experience. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be just from RJ. Hubert Davis, obviously a great guard in his own right, a phenomenal shooter. Marcus Page is on this staff that can say, look, I'm a little bit more removed than RJ, but you see what I did and you see how I got to step right in, especially once Kendall Marshall left early and just do all that. Here's what you can be. Jeff Lebo, same thing, as a guard that played at Carolina. All these guys can help pour into him. So let me give you 5 specific takes that I have just from my watching of Derek Dixon from some of his games this summer, and then highlights and talking to people and other stuff. Number 1, and even before I say anything much more about talent, this dude gets basketball. I love that. Like he is a player that is not going to beat you by making boneheaded mistakes. He's going to do what needs to happen. I love that. He knows how to play. He knows how to make things come together. Number 2 thing you need to know about Derek Dixon, the shooting, baby, that is the calling card. This dude shot 39% from deep in EYBL this year. He's a 90% plus free throw shooter. He can do it in the mid range. I mean, he's got the ability to score at multiple levels, and you have to respect that. But he's also a player that's not just going to go out shot hunting unless that's what he's being asked to do by his coaching staff. He's a guy that's going to get teammates involved as well. And then obviously that allows his shot to be more efficient and effective for whatever team he's playing for. And that's going to be the Tar Heels. Number 3, it was asked of me, I think actually earlier this week, that if Carolina didn't land any of the 5-star guys and they did land Derek Dixon, could he come in and be the starting point guard immediately if, well, obviously RJ's gone, but if Elliott's gone, etc. My answer to that is no. I do not believe that Derek Dixon is there yet with his point guard skills. They are growing though, and hear me say that. I think that's something he's working on, but right now I see more shooting guard strength than pure point guard strength. And again, that doesn't mean he'll never get there. It's just where he's at right now, right? It's always a continuum. It's always a journey that we're working towards. But I do not believe that even next year, he would not be the starting point guard. That would either be Elliott's back, or as Coach Rob and I were talking about earlier this week, could even be Seth Trimble arises to be the starting point guard next year, or you turn to the portal and have those opportunities as well. Nice opportunity to fill your roles there. So Number 3 for me, Dixon is growing in his point guard skills, but it is not something that you would expect him to step in and be next year or maybe even his sophomore year, a starting point guard. Number 4, defense. When we look at a player coming in like Drake Powell, from the very first day you heard about Drake Powell, the thing you heard and learned about him was Drake Powell is a stud individual and team defender. That is also true of Seth Trimble. That was true previously of like Leaky Black and others. That is not the first thing you hear about Dixon. But when you read reports from people like Adam Finkelstein of 247, who, by the way, does a phenomenal job with his coverage, one of the things that he talks about and that I had started watching after I had read this from him a while ago is that what Dixon does do really well, while he's not going to be a standout defender, he knows how to operate well within team defensive principles. So while he's not a standout defender, he's not neither is he a woeful or a minus defender. He's solid. He, again, because he gets basketball, he knows how to operate in the team concepts. He knows how to use his body and use it well. And so obviously he will grow. It takes time to learn the defensive concepts of a college basketball team. You know, there are reports from this week of just like Ian, for example, not that he's a bad defender, but just taking time to learn how to work within the Carolina defensive principles. And then fifthly, and this is one that is something special for me, I'm a southpaw. Man, that circle change is devastating. Derek Dixon, not a southpaw, but he is really well-versed with his left hand, can do a lot of things with his left hand. And that's something, for example, that I've said I'd like to see Elliot Cadeau grow in, is the utilization of his left hand. Dixon can come in and do that well. So there you go. Those are some takes about Dixon. What I want to get to next is talking about what exactly is it that Dixon's commitment means. We're going to look at our scholarship chart and look ahead to what's next after Dixon's commitment. Who might be next for the Tar Heels? We'll get to all of that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about our friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. How about a line for this weekend's game against Duke? Unfortunately, the Blue Devils are favored tomorrow by 2.5 points. Carolina got to go in to Wallace Wade Stadium and dominate that. By the way, if you haven't caught it, we had 2 shows out today. A show with myself and Denora Cersei previewing the game, and then a crossover episode with our guy JJ Jackson from Locked on Blue Devils getting in on that. So anyway, if you want to get in on that Carolina Duke action this weekend or anything else going on, check out FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we're talking Derek Dixon, who has just committed earlier this afternoon to North Carolina for the 2025 season. What I've done now, for those of you watching, is I've pulled up the scholarship chart. This is something I always make. If you're familiar with our show, you know that I always put this out and put it up once Carolina has any kind of roster movement. Guys coming in, guys going out, whatever it is, you can bet your bottom dollar that Isaac Shade will have it up. So as I said earlier, I had actually shared the scholarship chart earlier in the day with our Locked on Tar Heels insiders. So they've been already looking at that. Would love for you to come be a part of that, where you can text directly with me. I share as part of that. If you're a Locked on Tar Heels insider, you get free access to my charts, my stats, my record book, all my data, all sorts of things like that. You get a 2-week free trial. Then it's just $5 a month after that. Come check it out. Links in the show notes. Anyway, here's the scholarship chart. And let me remind you right from the beginning of this conversation that there are talks about, and it seems like it's going to happen, that the scholarship quota is going to move from 13 and grow. So we're just talking about where things stand today, Friday, September 27th. So right now we're going to operate as though it's still a 13 scholarship maximum for college basketball, but just keep in mind that those numbers can and probably are going to change. As a reminder, the way I do this is it's not, we're not saying that Ian Jackson is going to be around as a senior. That's not going to be the case. This chart just shows what you can do, what eligibility the players do have left. By the way, if you're not watching, if you're listening back to this on audio, I have put the chart out on Twitter, so you can go follow it there as I talk. For next year, let's look ahead. Carolina, with Dixon's commitment, now has 3 open scholarships. obviously, hear me say that number is going to change. There are guys that we don't know that are going to either transfer or, we're assuming that Ian Jackson's going to be out the door. Maybe Drake Powell is out the door because he's had a great freshman year, something of that nature. But right now it sits at 3. Four rising seniors in the 2 transfers, Van Allen Lubin and Cade Tyson. And then you would have 2 homegrown Carolina guys in Seth Trimble and Jay Wash. You would have 1 junior in Elliot Cadeau if he's back, and then 4 sophomores, which would be this year's 3 freshmen, plus if Zayden High is back in the mix next year as a redshirt sophomore, plus Ian Jackson, Drake Powell, and James Brown. And then Derek Dixon kicking off this freshman class for the Tar Heels. And then it goes on and on from there. But again, plenty of space to add more guys to this class, and that's where things stand today. Now, the question is, okay, Carolina has landed Dixon. What's next? Because I think we're all probably aware, and if you're not, let me tell you, Carolina cast a very, excuse me, I hit my mic there. Carolina cast this wide net in the class of 2025, and that included a ton of the elite players, the Boozer twins, Koa Pete, AJ DeBanza, all of these dudes. I think at one point it was like Hubert Davis had offered like 9 of the top 10 at 247 Sports, including a couple others right there. Now, he's cast a wider net and expanded that more to include guys, kind of in that top 50 conversation, including like Derek Dixon. So the question right now is, because Dixon, again, is going to be a strong player for North Carolina, but he is not, rankings-wise, elite of the elite. Will Carolina land any of that caliber player, like an Ian Jackson or like a Drake Powell in this class? At this point, we don't know. I will say that Carolina is not, the favorite or highly anticipated for many of these guys. However, AJ DeBanza was on campus, last weekend, and he is unequivocally the consensus number 1 player in this entire class. And while many people, there's a lot of scuttlebutt about BYU, Carolina, baby, is in that mix right now. And so will they land him? We do not know, but they're in the mix, and that's all you can ask for at this point. Are there any other of the elite that Carolina will be in on? There's possibilities still with like Caleb Wilson, for example. So we'll just keep our eyes on that. But where we are now is like the next step is going to be a couple more guards. And that one of them is Isaiah Dennis, who was on campus for his official visit actually this weekend. He has right now a November 2nd commitment date set. He does still have a couple more official visits to take, but he is an in-state young man, and there's a lot of noise for him trending towards the Tar Heels. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But also, Braylon Mullins earlier this week cut his list down to a trio of Carolina, Indiana, he's from Indiana, and UConn. Is he going to be a Sean May and come down to Carolina from Indiana? Right now, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like both IU and UConn are ahead of the Tar Heels, just from the rumors that are flying around, but we will keep our eyes on that. The good thing is that he cut out like Duke and Kentucky and Kansas, amongst others. And so Carolina's in that bottom 3. Mullins is the higher ranked of all 3 of these players between Dixon, Dennis, and Braylon Mullins. Just would be an absolute dude for Carolina. So we'll see if they can make that ground back up. But what's interesting, he does not yet have a commitment date set, but he has said he's anticipating it being late October, early November, which you just heard me say Isaiah Dennis is November 2nd. So it's kind of hey, you probably would take all 3 of these guys if they commit, but you're probably getting only one of those 2 remaining backcourt targets. And it might be hey, whoever commits first, that's our guy kind of situation. So we'll watch for that. The other thing, though, that you need to think about is that the portal factor of it all plays a massive role in this. Guys are waiting longer and longer and longer and longer to commit in this day and age. And part of that is because they don't want to, a lot of them don't want to commit and then get recruited over in the transfer portal when they thought like, hey, I was maybe going to have a starting role or maybe 6th or 7th man, but now I'm getting recruited over. And so guys are waiting even longer to see what the landscape is. But sometimes also you do some of those big fish in the pond have to commit. And then there's like this domino effect. And so we're still waiting on that. We just don't have many high level players committed yet in the class of 25. So we'll have to watch out and see what happens there. But that's where things stand today. Carolina, we're waiting to see, can they land that absolute dude, AJ Dybantsa, which, by the way, he's not, he's more of a wing or a 4. And so we're waiting to see on all of that. Now, I know there are some questions coming in. Let's see if there's anything that we want to take. Hey, Coach Rob's in the chat. He says, go Heels. Coach Rob, hope you're having a good Friday, brother. Good to see you. Big Cush is here. Great to see that. Our guy Shadalac says, last time we had a DMV guard pick UNC over Pitt, it worked out pretty well. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is right. There's not too many questions coming in, actually. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and wrap up and finish out here our time together. And so I want to thank you all for tuning in and checking out. Go just watch film on Derek Dixon, start to learn who he is and what's going on. And man, we can learn more about him. I'm sure we'll talk more as we continue on. If you're not already subscribed to our show, make sure you do that both on audio and video so that you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels, including tomorrow when we go live after the football game. What you can do for that is hit the bell notification on YouTube, and that'll send you right in to where when I go live, it'll click you in and you can tap right in and be part of the show. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, baby, everybody in there in those comment section is part of that, and we'd love for you to come be part of it as well. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. The link is in the show notes, and it's free to join. Also, as I've told you a couple times, man, that Locked On Tar Heels Insider family, it's a great place to be, and an opportunity, again, to text directly with me one-on-one and be in conversation. You're going to want to do that because I share all sorts of stuff in there with you ahead of when I share it on Twitter or even in the Discord. So come be part of that. All right, gang, can't wait to talk with you till tomorrow after the game. Make sure you tune in for that. But until then, peace.